A beloved elementary school teacher is found strangled in a ghoulish Halloween murder.
How could you do this to such a pure, good person and take away someone's mother and friend? And
the shocked family, friends, and young students of Cherilyn Hawkley are heartbroken.
I just started crying uncontrollably, and a whole nother wave of emotions hit me.
And residents of Granite Bay, California are terrified there's a macabre killer on the loose in their safe, peaceful little town.
It's the kind of case where you learn about it and you realize if it can happen to her, it can happen to my wife, my mom, anybody on the street.
What if he's a person who just lives around me?
And for 22 years, Cherilyn's unsolved murder has haunted everyone who knew and loved her.
What was the hardest part?
The memories, for me, are really vivid, especially at the anniversary of her death every Halloween.
I think the times that I missed her the most was after I had my children, because I didn't have her with me to help through that. And when I had mothering questions, I couldn't ask her those.
Miss Hawkley is even memorialized in a plaque from her students that remains embedded in brick and cement at Eureka Elementary.
And there's a Facebook page, I guess, that has the kids' names on them, and their input of how they feel still.
But now, after all this time, cold case cops believe they may be close to finally catching the Halloween monster who killed Miss Hawkley.
Do you think you know who did this?
I think so.
It's October 29th, 1993 in Granite Bay, a quiet bedroom community in Sacramento. And it's the biggest party day of the year at Eureka Elementary School.
Kids are dressing up, there's popcorn everywhere.
And the popular Miss Hawkley's enjoying the Halloween festivities with her class of 5th graders.
She was so tender and sweet. She's just that kind of person. She's always tried to be really in tune with what's going on.
Sarah Mason was one of her closest friends, and her daughter was one of Miss Hawkley's pupils.
To see her in action in my child's classroom and to see her spark that interest in all those kids, that probably was my favorite part. Because she came to life and the kids came to life.
But Miss Hawkley's life is suddenly about to be tragically cut short at age 39.
She's last seen at the school around 4:30 or so. Nothing out of the ordinary. A couple teachers see her, some students see her, and that's about it.
And nobody would see her alive again.
The next we know, her boyfriend's kind of looking for her that night. She doesn't come home. He goes to the school. He's calling family. What's going on? He reports her missing.
Cherilyn's ex-husband and their 3 children were worried too, but trying not to be alarmed.
We knew that we didn't know exactly where she was. I think we'd hoped that she was just having a hard time and went to a friend's house or something.
Then, 2 days later, less than a mile from Eureka Elementary,
One of our deputies is on routine patrol in the area and discovers a vehicle in a wooded area. He goes up to check the vehicle and finds Miss Hawkley deceased in the van.
It was a ligature strangulation. She was strangled.
a woman who could light up any room came face to face with darkness and death. Elementary school teacher Cherilyn Hawkley is found strangled in her minivan in a grim Halloween murder that shocks the small Sacramento neighborhood of Granite Bay.
We've had to live with it for 22 years. But I think I'd want to know why.
Cherilyn's daughter Heather was just 14 when her mother was murdered, and her sister Melissa was 16. The pair has never talked publicly about the homicide that haunts them.
I've wondered who would ever do something like that, and who would voluntarily hurt Mom in any way.
Cops investigating the case at the time wanted to know the same thing, but they struggled to find a motive. Tests to determine if Miss Hawkley had been sexually assaulted were inconclusive. And it didn't appear to be robbery because Cherilyn's purse and other personal property were still in the van. Nor was there any evidence of jealousy or a romantic encounter with someone she might have just met.
She didn't live a risky lifestyle. She didn't put herself in dangerous situations. She didn't make bad decisions. I mean, she was a normal person living a normal life that something terrible happened to.
Police investigate a report of a stranger parked in a VW Bug outside Eureka Elementary the day Miss Hawkley disappeared, but it leads nowhere.
There hasn't been any evidence that that individual was actually connected with the crime.
Nor can police find any link to an unsolved murder of another woman, 35-year-old Cindy Wanner, who was also strangled in Granite Bay 2 years earlier.
The manner of death, the situation involving how they were found, where they were found, markedly different. Kind of the behavioral pattern of the offender different in both of them.
And detectives are almost certain Ms. Hawkley's killer was no stranger to her.
When the case first started, there was definitely a sense that it was probably somebody who at least knew her, somebody familiar with the area.
But they immediately discount one of two main persons of interest, Cherilyn's boyfriend.
You believe he had nothing to do with this?
We haven't found any evidence that he had anything to do with it.
And the same can be said for Cherilyn's ex-husband, Royal Hawkley.
It was actually in Oregon at the time of the murder with multiple witnesses. We don't have any evidence that he had anything to do with it.
And the case goes cold for more than 2 decades, leaving residents of Granite Bay on edge to this day.
We've gone back and talked to teachers who are still teachers now, who were teachers then, and they've told us, hey, we tell new teachers, lock your doors, lock your classrooms, specifically because of this event.
I want my family to feel safe. They don't feel safe. They get worried if a car's out in front too long, and there's just no closure.
And Cherilyn's daughter Heather admits she's lived in fear that her mother's killer might come after her or someone else in their family.
It would be really nice to have this figured out and the case closed and the person convicted, because then I wouldn't have that fear that I so don't want, and I work really hard to not have.
Now, finally, cold case detectives Brian Madison and Chris Joyce of the Placer County Sheriff's Office think they could be close to solving the Halloween murder of Cherilyn Hawkley, thanks to mind-boggling advances in forensic science.
I think the DNA in this case will probably be the bridge between solved and unsolved.
The 2 detectives have returned to the scene of the crime for evidence that may have been overlooked and could now be forensically examined.
The van would have been somewhere maybe 40 yards off the road.
And they have already taken old evidence collected over the past 22 years, including the rope she was strangled with, and submitted it for fresh DNA analysis they hope will snare their man. And they are re-examining what they call the murder book.
Tell us about the murder book.
Basically, it's thousands of pages in multiple books. I mean, it's every statement, every report, every newspaper clipping, every card ever sent to the department, every interview ever done.
Now we have the ability to incorporate scientific evidence into those statements to either contradict or corroborate someone's statement, which gives us the ability to say, you're absolutely lying. You lied to us back then and you're lying to us right now.
Yeah, open that binder, see what's in that one. All right.
Detectives Joyce and Madison also revealed to Crime Watch Daily they already have a suspect they're ready to zero in on once the results of the DNA test come back from the lab.
I think I know who did this.
But they won't say anything more until they have the DNA evidence to prove it.
So Cherilyn's murderer is in the murder book.
Yeah, I think so, absolutely.
Look at Mom.
Oh, Mom looks so pretty.
For the first time, Cherilyn's daughters are feeling a sense of hope that their mother's killer will soon be caught.
Do you believe justice is around the corner?
I think that it is very possible this time there is many different pieces coming together, and I'm so grateful for all of the detectives that have worked on the case throughout all of these years, and I think that we may have answers soon.
Heather knows their mom would share their gratitude.
I think she would be grateful that it's being looked at really closely again and that such great men are working on this case to help us.
And finally, collar Cherilyn's killer and bring the Halloween ghoul to justice.